You know that feeling when you're in some kind of a game, but nobody ever told you the rules? Or like the ground is just constantly shifting under your feet in a relationship? Well, here's a wild thought. That feeling, it might not be an accident at all. It might actually be a test.
See, we tend to think of manipulation as this big, obvious thing, right? Like someone just comes in and takes over. But it's so much more subtle than that. It never, ever starts with a demand. It starts with something quiet, almost invisible. A small, little interaction that seems totally harmless on the surface, but is actually a secret mission to gather information about you. And that, right there, is the whole idea we're going to unpack. These aren't just random, thoughtless things people do. Nope, they are carefully calculated signals, all designed to measure how you react and to find your weak spots. Okay, let's get into this playbook. So it all kicks off with something really small. Something so small you could easily deny it even happened. This is the first and honestly the most critical stage, where they find out how much you actually respect your own boundaries. Look, the first test is never going to be some huge, dramatic violation. It's got to be a tiny little crack in the foundation. It has to be small enough that you second guess yourself, wondering, wait, was that even on purpose? I mean, think about these. A reply to your text that's always just a little too late. A tiny promise they made that they just forgot. That backhanded compliment, or a joke that stings just a little bit. If you just ignore it, or make an excuse for them, or kind of laugh it off to keep things nice and smooth, you just handed them their first piece of data. And here is what they learn. They're not learning that you're nice or easygoing. No, no. They're learning that you are willing to swallow your own discomfort just to avoid a confrontation. And to them, that's a green light. That's permission to push it a little further. All right, so they've established that you'll put up with discomfort. Now it's time to level up. Next, they want to see how you react, not to something they do, but to something they don't do. This is all about applying pressure with silence. So for this test, what they're doing is they're weaponizing their absence. They pull back affection, they stop communicating, they just remove all warmth. And it creates this vacuum that feels really, really unsettling. You know what I'm talking about, right? Suddenly, the conversation just dies. They're online, but they're not replying to you. There wasn't a fight. There was no argument. There's just nothing. And let me be clear. This silence is not because they're busy. It's a strategy. They're sitting back and they're watching. They're wondering, are you going to panic? Are you going to chase me? And what happens? If you're the one who immediately starts sending another text asking, is everything okay? Or worse, you start apologizing just to get a response and break that awful tension, well, they've just learned something incredibly valuable about you. They've learned that all they have to do is apply a little emotional pressure and you'll fold. Okay, let's recap. They know you tolerate discomfort. They know you fold under pressure. So for test number 3, it's time to turn your own feelings into a weapon against you. This is the part where they start to manufacture guilt. And this is so sneaky because it's not about aggressive accusations. It's about framing your perfectly normal emotional reaction as the problem. It's like they're putting your sadness on display and calling it a character flaw. Do any of these sound familiar? You bring up something that bothered you, and instead of talking about it, they just diagnose you. You're overthinking things. Wow, you're just so sensitive. Or my personal favorite, you always take things so personally. And just like that, the conversation isn't about what they did anymore. Now it's about what's wrong with you for reacting. The second you start defending yourself, the moment you say, I'm not being too sensitive, you've already lost. You've accepted their twisted premise that your feelings are what's on trial here. And for them, the lesson is crystal clear. Guilt is a fantastic tool to shut you down and stay in control. Now, what's really fascinating is how they watch you. A manipulator will often just create some tension and then just sit there. They wait. And your natural impulse, right, is probably to jump in and fix it, smooth things over, make everyone feel comfortable again. But look at what they're learning from that. They're learning you care more about keeping the peace than you do about your own boundaries. And that imbalance, that's exactly where their control comes from. So this brings us to the very end of this whole vetting process. After all the little boundary pushes, the silent treatment, the doubt, the guilt trips, there's only one last question that they need an answer to. And check this out. The final test isn't another action they take. It's an observation of your biggest action. After everything they've done, after making you feel confused and uncomfortable and totally insecure, the big question is, do you stick around?
And honestly, this is the most chilling part of the whole thing. If the answer is yes, if you stay, the tests just stop. The whole vetting process is over. They have all the data they need. They now have a complete blueprint for how to control you.
So yeah, that's the dark playbook. But here's the thing. Just understanding that the test exists is the first step to refusing to take it. The power isn't in trying to out-manipulate them. It's in recognizing the game and just walking off the field. This right here is the main takeaway. It's not about winning an argument. It's not about getting them to finally see your side of things. The entire manipulation depends 100% on your participation. The moment you stop tolerating the little boundary crosses, the pressure, the guilt, the whole dynamic just falls apart.
So what's the path forward? Well, it's pretty simple. First, stay aware. See these tiny moments for what they really are, they're tests. Second, stay sovereign. You, and only you, are in charge of your feelings and your boundaries. Nobody gets to tell you they're wrong. And third, stay untouchable. Not by being cold or mean, but by having such a solid core of self-respect that you simply don't even engage with these kinds of games.
And that's really the question I want to leave you with. Take a look at the dynamics in your life. This test, it's not loud, it's quiet, it's subtle. But just recognizing it, seeing it for what it is the first and the absolute most powerful step you can take to reclaim your control.